And we are live. I'm here with the Cajun Libertarian, my man. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty well. It's raining outside right now, which is kind of crappy. They're cutting the alfalfa,
Really?
but it gives me a little bit of time to relax and let the kids get outside and run around before it gets really humid and hot. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's not raining over here. We need some rain badly, but it's smoking hot. Triple digits all week.
I'm sure that's been miserable at work. I know I've been cooking
Oh
inside
yeah.
of RVs, doing all kinds of dumb shit.
Oof.
People don't understand the value of manual labor anymore. I think that
Right.
the conveniences of life have kind of made us soft. What do you think about people not wanting to get back to work now that we know that all these provisions don't need to be in place, and we can actually start getting everything back together?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's actually a great point because that is still happening in some states. I actually took a pay cut in the middle of the COVID madness, believe it or not, coming off of employment to get back into my career once we opened this business. So I literally took a pay cut to come back to work. I think that there's an inherent value to working hard, working with your hands, setting goals, accomplishing those goals. And a lot of that's done through work. I think it's something that's natural to us that we should desire is to be productive. And we also get paid at the same time. So, yeah, I think you should
Right.
absolutely go back to work. If you're still sitting at home because of this nonsense, well, you're definitely part of the problem.
Yeah, it's not good for your mind to sit around and just have time to think about everything that you're not doing or that you things that you're told that you want to do. I'm a firm believer in just getting out there and doing it, and
Yep.
all wisdom's built through failure. And that old adage that you may fail the first time, but get back at it doing the second time. You may fail the second, may fail the 30th. But as long as you still have the gumption to get up and keep trying and trying, that success will eventually come to roost. So I'm a
Absolutely.
firm believer in hard work too. And I had a good conversation with Sean Hickman last night, who comes from a different part of an expertise where he didn't have to really use his hands, but
Right.
he used his mind. And I think that if we can incorporate both sides instead of having the hierarchy of the white collar and then the blue collar, that where we can incorporate all that into our society, social, economical, I think we'd be in a good place too.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we had a true free market, then you would see these things really be cohesive and work together as one unit. You would have intellectualism driving one part of the market. You'd have hard labor driving another part of the market. But that's really hard to do when there's so much government interventionism that it really inhibits any of these practices. Like take you said you're a mechanic. I mean, did you have to have any licensing to get that? Some people,
Uh,
my career field, I had to get licensing to do that. For what? It's so unnecessary. All it is a fee to pay the state.
Yep. Mine is more certifications. The
Right.
the the licenses are not really the title that they put on it, but it's still, if you
Same.
want to handle refrigerants, you have to be certified
Yep.
in some kind of protocol or some EPA regulation like 608 or 609. So you
Yep.
still have to carry that card with you because somebody can fine you if it goes into the atmosphere by accident. But yet again, the
Yep.
manufacturers get a pass because it can leak slowly throughout time, and that's perfectly normal. Because
Right.
biggest complaint about anybody when their AC don't work is, well, there's no refrigerant in the system. Where did it
Right.
all go?
Yeah. No coolant. And you ain't lying neither. So I helped run a pest control company. Me and my boss opened this company. It was just the two of us, and look, I got to carry this card right here everywhere I go. It
Yep.
lets the people know that I am certified by the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce, the Bureau of Plant Industry, which is lorded over by the EPA.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's just it's it's
It's
such an
absolute bonkers. It's
yeah.
bonkers that I have to pay a government entity in order to make an income, in order
Yep.
and to be in a specialized field also. It actually boggles my mind because it's just another tax
Yep.
for warming the heart and mind of the individual that you're going to keep them safe. And we know that the EPA protects giant corporations who pollute the environment daily
Big fact.
to the detriment of death of human beings. So yeah, I would promptly say the government can go fuck themselves on that one,
Yeah, yeah,
and I don't
yeah,
have a
for
problem
sure.
saying that either.
No, I mean, look, it's just like a car registration. I don't know how it is for your field, but I have to get mine redone every 3 years, and it's the same information. It's nothing new. You just literally have to pay the state a fee every 3 years to get you a new little plastic card that says I can carry the chemicals I have in my truck.
Yep,
That's it.
yep.
With no, there's
Every
no oversight.
no,
It's not like they're following me around, making sure I'm doing it right.
yep.
I
But
can
they
do
have
what
to
I
have
want.
they have to have the instance of being able to capture you and find you and
Yep.
may personally confine you and take away your time away from your family and everything, because that is the incentive to do right, instead of just having that moral incentive inside of you to do right by others. That
Yep.
because we have people that have done detriment for the form of profit. And if you lean left, most of the time the arguments come that way, but if you lean right, you know that doing harm to your consumers is not going to help your bottom line for your profits.
Right.
So it's ridiculous, but it's always about greed and stuff like that. I mean, how much does a human really want, or how much quantity does a human need in order to say that they are successful in life? I don't think it's much.
Yeah, I mean, and then you could get off into a whole nother paradigm of what defines success. That's going to look
Yep.
differently for everybody. Some people might put a monetary value on success. We actually don't put value at all monetarily into that idea of success. To me, success is waking up every day and doing the best I can to be the best human being, the best father, the best husband, and the best political influencer, best Christian that I can be that day. And there's not an X amount of boxes that I have to check off. It's just, there's going in each one of those categories, I'm going to fail every day. Each one of those categories, I'm going to fail. That's not how I gauge that success. Alluding to back what you said earlier, failure is a much, much, much better teacher than success ever will be. Failure gives you all of the gaps and the holes in your system, in your game of whatever you're trying to do successfully. Failure will highlight that to you, and it's our job to make sure that we embrace and implement humility so that we can acknowledge those failures as for what they are, right? And then you can move forward each day. Like I said, in every one of those categories, I'm going to fail. How badly do I fail is not going to determine if I was successful or unsuccessful that day. The way I gauge that success is I want to do the best that I can now that I'm done with my day, what can I learn from the mistakes that I made? And then tomorrow I'm going to get back up and I'm going to try to make sure that I fill those holes and I don't make those same mistakes again. That to me is what success really is.
That's a perfect definition in my eyes, because you can't harp on the past. You take the negatives of your maybe the smallest failures and maybe the biggest failures, but you take those failures and then you build upon them. And it may take a day, it may take a minute, it may take 25 years,
Yeah.
but you will see the fruits of your strife come out in success. And I don't care if you're Jocko Willnick or you're David Goggins or you're Tony Robbins, the same exact message comes across from any kind of influencer that's trying to say that what is success? Success is failing, because you'll always try and be better the next day. It doesn't matter if you're a person that can take a skill set and instantly learn it and become handy at it. It's whether you're going to continue on to try and reach that next level. Because you can
Yep.
talk to Shaolin monks and they tell you that you'll never achieve that enlightenment in which you strive for. But
Right.
it's the journey. It's not
That's right.
the end game.
That's absolutely right. That's well said. That brings up another great point. So I'm a Christian. I'm also a musician, and I've been a worship pastor and minister for several different organizations. And to me, music and Christianity and what you're talking about right there all lines up perfectly together. Because when I go to bed at night, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning knowing that there's no chance I'm ever going to be the perfect Christ-like figure that I want to be. Same thing with music. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and I'm gonna destine myself and set a goal to be an absolutely perfect and just immaculate musician. Neither one of those things are ever going to happen. They're never going to happen. And I know that. I'm never going to be the perfect Christian, never going to be the perfect influencer or musician or perfect dad or perfect husband. I'm never going to be those things. But I'm still going to wake up every day and I'm going to try.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's all you can do, because the first success that you have of the day is waking up. The next
Right.
success you have of the day is if you can get out of bed and then take your first step, and then that perpetual motion keeps going throughout the day. So it's always good to stay in the positive mindset and know that shit ain't
Absolutely.
always gonna go right. You're
That's
gonna
right.
have shit go wrong. This is just the
Every
way
day.
life is. I think people
Yep.
become hypersensitive to the negative influence because there was an overcompensation. And it's just like anything, especially with government and public policy. It's a looming overcompensation for a very minute problem for a
Yep.
very select few individuals. And my thought process on public policy is if you can get rid of as much of it as possible, most people will find the successes that they need in order to not have problems in their lives. And I think that just takes the dependency out of government right out of the situation. Be dependent on yourself and your own skill sets,
Right.
and then build your community out by interchanging skill sets that are of mutual benefit. And I think I couldn't reach those words last night with Sean, but yet again, I can have the hours to dwell on it and think on it, and
Yep.
then you can find the right words to get it across. So I mean, I wish I could see your show every week like I used to. I used to be raging in your comment section a lot. So
Well, yeah. So, every once in a while, I just get burnt out, and it's not necessarily that I'm burnt out from the show or from politics or anything like that. It's just I do work outside in the heat every day, um, and May was every 3 months I do quarterly services where I got to tote around a 40-pound backpack, sloshing around on my back, 3 flights of stairs, and 20 something apartment complexes. I got to knock all of them out through the month. So last time I had to do it in the extreme heat was last August, and then this May was very kind of a peculiar May. The first week of May was pretty normal for May, and all of a sudden it just snapped into hot gear, just overnight. And so I was having to deal with that climate change, quote unquote, climate, pun intended, right? Having to deal with that climate change in the middle of those quarterly services, which is it's very brutal. Like February, May, and August are just rough. And so it's very difficult for me to want to come get off work. I'm pouring sweat all day. I mean, pouring sweat, just
Mhm.
drenched, and get home, hang out with the kids, do dinner and all that, and then have to jump onto a show. So, what me and my wife were kind of tossing around the idea of is maybe for those 3 months, I might just take that month off to decompress. So for February, and this isn't set in stone, but February, May, and August, we are strongly considering where I'm just going to take that month off. Maybe I do a couple of shows on the weekends. See, this is easy for me. I can do this 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as long as the kids aren't trying to beat down the door like they were
That's fine.
earlier. But it's a lot easier after I've slept all night and then I've been just hanging out all morning. I'm not beating myself to death outside in the Mississippi heat. So I gotta strike a balance. I'm a chaotic guy. A lot of people don't understand that. Like, I thrive in chaos. I've lived in chaos for a long time, and I'm really only got two speeds. I'm either 100 miles an hour or I'm nothing. I mean, 100% or 0%. So I need to
Yep.
find a better way to strike this balance. And I'm very new at this still, to be honest with you. I've only been doing a podcast for a year. And I guess you could kind of say I haven't even gone a full year because May made a year. And there's been a couple of months where I took off. So I'm still trying to get used to it. I'm still a newbie at all this and learning it and trying to get back onto it. But I did, just to let everybody know, reach out and put out a couple of tweets and a couple of posts saying, if I've had you on the show before and you're running for office in November, then I want to go ahead and drag you back on as we inch closer to the midterms and try to get those people what they need resource wise and try to get them elected and win. We're not trying to nip away at things. There's going to be small victories where you're not going to win the office that you're seeking, but you can maybe get ballot access for the Libertarian Party in one of those states, even without winning. You just get a percentage of the vote. It's going to look different everywhere. So I really want to go ahead and jump back into it here really soon. Drag everybody back on that's running for office in November, and then go from there. And of course, I'll always have my regulars on. Like Spike will be on either next week or the week after. I can't. I got to get with. I got to get with him and see which date we decided. I'm going to always have Spike back on. Jason Lyons, another one. Um, there's a couple of people that I bring on habitually when
Hmm.
you just want to have a conversation. You know, then you have your other interviews where you're just talking to people who are running for office. So that's a long way of saying trying to get back into it and find a more healthy balance. At one point I was doing like 3 or 4 shows a week, and I did that for a long time. And then Facebook crushed me, and I mean they still slaughtering me now, but I got disheartened. That was back in November of last year,
I
and I
remember.
basically threw my hands up in the air. I said, I can't do anything with this. And my buddy Jason Lyon, Mr. America Beard of Truth, he really helped me. He's been doing a lot longer than me. He's like, dude, it doesn't matter if Facebook crushing you. You're still getting hundreds of viewers a show, and then I get hundreds of listens later. You're still making an impact. You speak to who you can reach, and you let the rest work itself out. But don't get disheartened and don't throw in the towel just because I'm getting like a third of the reach that I was to begin with. So just got to keep pressing forward.
Yeah. And I told this one individual on the Libertarian discussion board on Facebook, I may have 0 viewers or I may have infinite viewers. The thing is that this is all documented to where people can take at their leisure when they want to receive information. And people are looking at this information every single day. There's a new person
Yeah.
picking up information about, oh, what's a libertarian? What's a person? What's voting gold? Who is this person? Oh,
Right.
look at this section. Oh, shit, they would, my first thing that I knew about is that it was getting government out of my way. And I'm a
Right.
felon, so getting government out of my way is a perfect thing
Tough.
for me.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have the right to possess firearms. My wife can make me a criminal if she tries to go out and buy firearms. The state of Wisconsin has eliminated the definition in the state legislature on what a firearm actually is. It used to be defined as an explosion propelled object
Yep.
that no longer exists. So
Really.
it's very sketchy for an individual like myself just to even be around people with even if they're open carrying or concealed carrying, because you can get caught up in something that has nothing to do with you just because you're in the vicinity. Like one of the examples that was used in this class that I took was if you're a felon traveling in the same vehicle as an individual, you could be charged with a crime even though it's a lawful firearm if that person commits a traffic violation.
What?
It gets fucking crazy. So
That is
it's just up to the
unbelievable.
discrepancy of the police officer and how much paperwork they want to do. And that's why I don't like labels, titles, and categories either, because it puts a black stamp on you. And
Yep.
I usually do like word association games with people. Like if you hear the word felon or veteran or Democrat or Republican or Libertarian, what's the first thing that you think of?
Yeah.
And it's trying to instill that we've been sold something every single day of our lives, some kind of idea, some kind of
Yeah.
a structure. Everything's been sold to us. So in order to think about these things critically, you have to be observant to that these things actually exist. And a lot of people give me a lot of backlash, like, you don't know what you're talking about, it's a bunch of bullshit. And I think about it every day, like, if I would have thought a different way, maybe my life would be different. But yet again, this goes on to the self-improvement thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 It's always looking inward first. That's what I try to tell a lot of people. And there's a lot of biblical philosophy to that, but that's also just a good human thing to do. Is let's make sure that our focus is inward when our self criticism is far more important than the criticisms of others. If I spend my time focusing on what I have on my plate, then I don't really have a whole lot of time trying to point out the errors in yours. Right? I've got enough of my own to deal with.
Yep.
So I don't need to worry about yours. If you ask, then I'll give you the best information and advice and wisdom that I possibly can. But other than that, I try to just stay focused on my own errors because I don't really have time to be focused on anybody else.
Yeah, and do you think that social media is really giving people some kind of like uh, um, stress card relief by shitting on other people to make themselves feel better, just because they think they have the anonymity of being on Facebook or on, Instagram or any of these social media platforms to like bash on people. But we all know that we all bleed red. We all know that we're trying to make the best of our own situations. But do you think that the selling points of, we were talking about what is success? What are the selling points that we're told every day? Oh, success is this kind of vehicle or this kind of house or some kind of monetary stature or something, which also like re-emphasizes and builds up the central currency system that we have in this, and it's also causing
Exactly.
the biggest strife in the United States since the Great Depression right now.
Yep. I think that so back to your first question, I think that there's an illusion of happiness or joy and self-fulfillment that people think that they get by just poo-pooing all over everybody online. Uh, I think it speaks more to the broader point that they're just deepening their own cuts and wounds with this superficial activity online, because just running around trying to dunk on everybody, it may seem good in the moment, but all you're really doing is you're just amplifying and continuing to push further and further that animosity and that really rotten soul type of behavior. Because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier just to go poo poo on everybody than trying to understand somebody. I mean, think about that really. If you're just crapping on people and just trying to insult them, yeah, you might think it makes you feel better, but you're moving backwards. You're digressing. It's a lot more complicated to try to be compassionate, patient, and trying to understand somebody, really trying to meet them where they're at, especially in the world of politics today where we're so
Right.
divided. It is unbelievably difficult. And look, I'm guilty too, man. I get to a point where like I tried my best to start every conversation being compassionate, and then all of a sudden I hit something, and I'm just like, all right, you know what? This is a brick wall. So here's the dunk, and I'm out. Right? So, like I'm not gonna get anywhere with this, so I might as well just go ahead and end this. But I don't look to start that way, and I try to avoid it as much as I possibly can, because if we're really gonna make a societal impact and a change in our communities and even online, which is a big deal, social media is the number one form of information dissemination. It's how we get it out there, right? So we really need to try to strive to understand people, where they're coming from, why they consider themselves Republicans, why they consider themselves Democrats, or Green Party, Libertarian, anarchists. I mean, we have our own fights in our community between the
I know
anarchists
it.
and the libertarians, which doesn't make any sense to me, because look, at my heart of hearts, I'm an ANCAP. I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I think it's utopian. I don't think it's as utopian as, say, believing that we can keep a government small. That to me is more of an illusion than actually making a legitimate anarchist society work. But we shouldn't be fighting about it. It's got to happen incrementally. And so, and it's not going to look the same everywhere. Anarchy means I'm going to give you the right to live your life the way you want to, right? So if you want to go build a society 2 miles over, and you have a town and a government and a structure that I don't want to be a part of, I still support your right to do that, so long as you don't come over here and try to take me over. And for
Right.
some reason, we're missing this, right? That we're missing this very simple point, that even if we want to get to that tiny step, we have to work with the system that we currently have. And the system that we currently have is two-party driven. And we've got to do the work, the hard work of trying to convince people one by one that this system is not just corrupt, it has corrupted everything in our society. And it all stems back from government interventionism and the expansion, which is all rooted in, look at that, you should be scared of it, now give us money and power so we can keep you safe. Again, if you, the person that, I'm going to butcher this quote that I say all the time. It's Ben Franklin. He said, basically, if you value safety over liberty, you can't have either. And I can't believe I'm butchering that quote, because I know it word for word, but I'm not bringing it to mind right now. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, liberty is dangerous, and we need to be concerned with ourselves, our communities, and looking at how we can remove that safety net of government, which is
Right.
actually the most violent extremist organization the world's ever seen. So we can travel that rabbit hole. I
That's
listen to
fine.
Glenn. I listen to Glenn Beck every day, right? I really respect Glenn Beck, and he has Michael Malice on every Friday, and it's so uncanny because their conversations sound just like the conversations I have with my dad, who's a constitutionalist, like hardcore constitutionalist. And like, look, I can respect him. Not a Republican. He didn't vote for Trump in 2016, voted for some no-name guy because he's going very principled individual. But we have these conversations all the time, and I'm always going to take it from the anarchist perspective, and he always takes it from the small government constitutional perspective. And it just sounds so much like Beck and Malice. But I've gotten to the point to where I've convinced him because there's really no argument against the existence of the state as violence. Just for the state to even exist requires violence and human rights violations. Now, do with that what you will. You can still call a government a necessary evil, which I'm forgetting the guy's name. That's what he said. At best, government is a necessary evil. At worst, it's absolutely tyrannical, right?
Yep.
And I think we're somewhere leaning towards the latter, but we're not quite there yet. I do think we blow that word out of proportion a little bit with tyranny, because at the end of the day, I still have the free will to move and go about my business. I can make voluntary transactions with nobody monitoring that. That could be coming to a close here very soon.
Correct.
There's a lot that they got going on with the World Economic Forum, with the Great Reset that Glenn Beck does a lot of journalism on. And that's something they want to do. They want to ditch the dollar. So maybe they're intentionally crashing the dollar so they can move to a federal digital coin-based currency. So in their words at the World Economic Forum, literally, and I quote, that way we can monitor every single transaction in the economy. Now, when
Yep.
that happens, now we're in red, full red. The problem with saying that part, right, is then you give people that aren't really awake like we are, you give them this time frame of relaxation, because they're like, okay, now I see what red really means. And we're not there yet. We're not even close. But what you don't understand is that they're actively working a lot harder than we are, because that is all they do all day, to get us into red alarms and fast. And so if we don't take steps now, because we didn't take steps 20 years ago, because they didn't take steps 50 years ago, then we're going to be in that
Right.
red alert a hell of a lot faster than people want to recognize.
One of the things that came up in my previous conversation with Sean Hickman was maybe people have had a overabundance of convenience, and maybe those hunger pains maybe will trigger something in their brain that instantly may flip the switch. Now, and I brought up to him, I'm a particular watcher of a YouTuber. I'm not going to say his name, but it's something that he said is that when you feel those hunger pains in prison, you know what it's like to become an animal, because
Right.
anybody who's starving is going to go back to their primal instincts. And
Right.
I look at that point of view as, can I get back to my primal instincts as far as my human survival with interactions that are dependent on each other through cooperation versus detriment?
Right.
His version was through detriment. You know, either you're going to extort somebody or you're going to poke them up, or whatever, to get what you need as far as nourishment. Do you think the overabundance in this country has come from the false idea that our money can always bail us out of every situation, instead of relying on the skill sets that produce for other people versus take away or consume?
Right. No, that's an excellent point, because if we go all the way back to, I mean, let's be honest, Woodrow Wilson really kicked us off into the progressive socialist movement, right? But it was really amplified during the FDR administration, and he really put the pedal to the gas. Um, and what we saw there, so, and this is going to sound terrible, but hear me out. One of the worst outcomes of the women's rights movement during that era was that it pushed them into the workforce, right? And it didn't just push all of the women into the workforce, but it pushed a lot of them. And it changed the idea. And look, again, I'm not saying the women's rights movement was a bad thing. Very opposite of that. We should have never had it to begin with. Women are
Right.
just as equal as men. I shouldn't even have to say that, right? But just for clarity, I'm not saying the women's right movement was a bad thing. I'm saying there were bad results. There are positive and negative results to everything. And a
Correct.
negative result to that movement during that era was pushing them into the workforce and out of the home.
Hmm.
And that created the system that the government knew immediately, said, now we can create an economic system that requires dual income. And once you made that, right, this is a system created. This is not
Yep.
organic. This was system created mainly through taxes. And that's a whole nother rabbit trail. But once they created a society that a dual income was necessary, that's when the government said, okay, now we're going to indoctrinate your children. Okay,
Hmm.
because now we can take over. And it wasn't very much longer after that that we had the Department of Public Education. Okay, because you had to have it well, you didn't have to have it, but the point of the matter is mom and dad were both at work and somebody had to teach the kids. And so we started sending them off to these indoctrination camps. And what this all created was this, what you're talking about is this necessity, this need to want to keep up with the Joneses, right? And so that meant at any cost, right? We choose to live differently. We live poor, I put that in air quotes, so that my wife can stay home with kids. It's not a conservative point of view. That's not a traditional point of view. That's not a liberal point of view. It's an anti, I don't want my kids being trained by government indoctrination camps. And I don't trust these people with the lives of the most sacred human beings that live in my roof, under my roof. So we're gonna make the necessary sacrifice. And I can go example after example. They just found video of a school principal and another school administrator dragging a special needs kid by his legs to the hallway. I'll be damned. Then I'll be a felon. You know what I'm saying? If that happens to my kids, that's just a tiny example. Plus the indoctrination, plus all the just horrible education practices that the current system entails. So again, all that being said, I think that's the main driver behind it is we needed to create a system in which both parents have to go to work. That way we can teach these kids and raise them the way we want them, the things that we want them to understand instead of whatever values that the parents place most highest because they have to go to work all day. And it's even worse now, right? It's much
Hmm.
well because of inflation. You know, getting off the gold standard from under Nixon was absolutely horrible, not
Oh,
to say the
we should
least.
go through the whole timeline because ever since the institution of the Federal Reserve, then we have institution of the IRS, multiple other CIA, multiple other ABC organizations within government, and then
Yeah,
all these policies get rolled out. Department of Education under Carter. I mean, it is absolutely insane that people just kept going on and on. But yet, like you said, if you can keep them distracted by keeping
yep,
them under your thumb and keep pressing harder and harder and saying, well, you, you need to do this, you need to do that. We need to make sure that the quality of life keeps going up, which costs you more. And then the standard of living is this: you must have a home. You can't live in a trailer park
yep,
or a cabin. You have to have a house. Now you have
yep,
to abide by these rules and regulations within that house. You have it goes on, and it's like a steamrolled boulder from the top of a mountain that just keeps going and going and going as far as the pressure that's been on humans that you could go and buy a small piece of property, have a small farm, sustain yourself by yourself. You burned your wood for your
yep,
fuel. You had maybe when they were lanolin oil lanterns for your house for your lighting and stuff like that. You didn't rely on the system, you relied on
correct.
yourself and your own resources, and this has been taken away from us. Now your resource is like YouTube or Twitter or
Yep,
Instagram or TikTok or being, the title of something that is glorious now is an influencer, when we know that 90% of it is bullshit. It's still selling the same story over and over again, and people are buying it.
yeah,
I heard this one guy say, "Oh, you all think you got to flex because you're wearing $120 Jordans, but I'm out here in $300 work boots, destroying them every 6 months."
yeah,
It's like what matters? What is the real thing that matters? Is it keeping the system going because everybody fucking hates it? We're all rats in a maze, or
Right.
is it getting back to our individual selves and what makes us happy? And from what I understand under the Constitution, you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If I want to
Yep.
consume cannabis, that makes me happy. That has nothing to do with you.
Yep.
It's a plant that grows right out of the ground. I don't have to play Joe Smuckatelli, $25 to get something that's 90,000 processes of getting to my destination, in which everything is illegal to the state as far as open trade and open markets. I mean, but if the pharmaceutical companies want to, they've already bribed the government to have that one
Yep.
licensing fee to say that I'm the only person that can handle this. You can still get heroin in this country under a medical prescription.
Yep.
You can still get methamphetamine as a pure form prescription. So when these people want to demonize these words and all this other shit, it really kills me because the language that they're using is only to the uninformed or the misinformed. And when you
Yeah.
can confuse information by constantly changing it every single day, where you're playing catch up every 5 days. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not playing catch up anymore. I already have an established standard. This has been a
Yeah.
standard that's been established for 100 years. I think I'm going to stick here and then try and get rid of all the garbled bullshit you're trying to tell me. Chris Rock said they don't want you to do your drugs; they want you to take their drugs.
Exactly.
And it's yet again, it's the same mind fuck game that they want to play. That it's not, you can't make your decisions for yourself. We can make your decisions for you. And people actually derive their security out of that. And I think it's a massive, massive, like the movie with Roddy Piper, They Live, where you got to wear your sunglasses to make sure you see the truth. You got to see the truth because I mean, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. This is something that
Right.
even a Russian spy said. If you can create demoralization in a country, it's going to take 10 to 20 to 30 years of educating those children and
Hmm.
changing the mindset. Well, we're right now probably in the midst of that, to where everybody's so divided because everybody had this different indoctrination over it. Because when I was going to school, it was knowledge is power. As much information as you can have will always make your life easier. Well, now it's if you get your participation trophy and you leave everybody alone and everybody's your friend. Remember, everybody at school is your friend, and you don't have those boundaries to know where your security really lies versus what could be detrimental to your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're seeing too, and I'm so glad you touched on that because I want to hit a couple of things here. Let me before I say that, let me say this. So, negative, positive results. One of the negative results of having an absolutely booming economy, of which the world has never seen, was the Industrial Revolution. The negative results of that Industrial Revolution was now it's easier for me to buy tomatoes at Walmart than it is for me to grow my own. Okay, so that made it much, much easier. And there's a great quote. I say it all the time. It says, hard men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And
Yep.
that's the natural cycle. Okay, that we love free market capitalism, but let's be real. This is the direct result of the success of free market capitalism, accompanied with, and I'm basically alluding to the Paperclip Project here. You took that and then you combined a bunch of Nazi propaganda for a century, and then we landed here. Now,
Yep.
what we're watching, in my personal opinion, I haven't discussed this with a whole lot of other people. We desperately want to reach to example A or example B and say, see what the Nazi propagandists were doing. That's exactly what's going on now. We can watch, we can see everything unfolding, but it's not that
Hmm.
easy. Because I think if you actually look at it, what we're up against are the most brilliant science and propagandists that the world has ever seen. And what they're doing is they're stealing these ideas from multiple dictatorial regimes. That's why it's so hard to pin it down. We desperately want to. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen because there are ideas stolen from the Nazi regime. There's ideas stolen from the Stalin regime, Mussolini, Che, Mao is the big one for me. When people talk about the culture of what we're going through in America, like what you're seeing with a lot of this division is straight from Mao's Cultural Revolution. And for some reason, I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. There's
It's
this
bad to
lady.
talk about it.
Oh, yeah, it's bad to talk
Bad.
about it. Right. There's this lady. She's running for Congress. She's running as a Republican. Her name's Willie Tang. She follows me on Twitter. She's on Glenn Beck all the time. Matt Kibbe had her on. I've had Matt Kibbe on a couple of times. Fantastic shows. Um, she's been on Michael Malice, I think. Great. She tells a phenomenal story of how she escaped Mao's communist China during the height of the Cultural Revolution. And my God, if you can't relate to some of the propaganda that they used to divide the cultures of that era, it's so applicable to here. But again, you cannot encapsulate everything that's happening right now into just Mao's Cultural Revolution because it
No.
won't fit into that box. You're going to have to visit history and see each part of what they're doing and where they're taking this stuff from. These people, literally, again, okay, back to the World Economic Forum, I heard these people say with my own ears that humans are now hackable. And the
Mm-hmm.
days of free will and privacy are over. And
Mm-hmm.
I quote, many dictators have tried to do this in the past and it was impossible. It is not anymore. We have the ability.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even saying the quiet part out loud. They're telling you exactly what they're wanting to do. They're not
Yep.
hiding it. It's not a quiet part out loud scenario. It's we liked what all these dictators wanted to do and couldn't pull it off. But guess what we can do? We can do all the things that they wish they could have. And here's how we're going to do it. And they're going to start with currency. Everything's about the currency. Everything's about the money. Everything's about the economy. If you can control the money, and I'm stealing this from Hotep Jesus off Joe Rogan. I know a lot of people don't like Hotep, but you know what? Chicken bone theory stuff. You can like something somebody says and don't appreciate everything that they say. It's fine.
Right.
Okay. Just a side note there. If the money isn't free, the people ain't free.
Right.
Right. And that's so true because when the day comes that we cannot make voluntary exchange of goods and services without a government entity overseeing every transaction, it's over with. And we're almost there. So what I'm asking people to do is be the crazy psycho that you called preppers 20 years ago. Be that person. Learn how to grow your own food, stock ammunition, stock metals, stock tobacco, stock liquor. Those are going to be great commodities to trade and sell and barter here in the very near future because there's a lot of people that are going to say, I'm not doing a digital currency that the feds can watch and lord over. So, what are you going to have that's worth intrinsic value? Because all of this is going to come down to commodities. It always has, it always will. Every single war that's ever been fought was fought over resources, fought over commodities. Every one of them. So we've got to figure out what it is that we're going to place intrinsic value on. See to it that there are other people that will place a value on it and that it can't be tracked. You're just going to have to. You're going to have to. But we're going to have to learn to be self-dependent again. Period. Full stop. We have to get there. I said something about it to somebody in a unit I was taking care of. He was all upset because something got broken. I said, man, we need to really get back to a society where we fix things. Stop throwing everything away. Just because you have the cash in the bank, you just throw it away and you go get more. Guess what? You might not have that cash. You might need to learn how to fix that.
Another thing is that when we knew how to fix things and it was its own self-recycling because you're not
That's
replacing the
correct.
entire unit, you're only replacing the bad parts. Now
Yep.
everything is made so cheaply that it's not reliable anymore. It doesn't have any kind of real, just like your vehicle nowadays, because of EPA emission standards, because of fuel economy standards. One thing I want to know, and this goes back to my true, like, I was like watching Unsolved Mysteries and shit when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. What I want to know is what happened to all the patents and information that was presented so that could become the next global leader in
Yep.
energy or anything like that to make people not dependent on these other systems. What happened to those things? Oh, well, they got bought out by the competition because they bribed the government, or the government bought it, whether it was DARPA or anything else, and they shelved
Yep.
it, or they implemented it and developed it even further, and now they have it as a weapon system. So regardless, I want full disclosure as far as
Right.
information when it comes to technology. But yet again, the government wants to have the monopoly on violence, but they also want to have the monopoly on the image of security.
Yep.
And they say, well, the police are there to help you. What are the police usually doing? They're implementing public policy to create fines to make revenue. And it's just the perpetual motion of these systems that keep it all moving. And once you start recognizing individuals as human beings instead of and this is my philosophy personally, their
Right.
label, title, or category. Well, I'm Agent Smith from the whatever the fuck 3-letter agency. Okay, so what? Unless you're pulling a weapon on me directly, I don't really care who you are. You're whatever statue you are as a person, and that's all I see. I don't see your uniform or your badge or whatever piece of paper that's supposed to make you important. You know,
Right.
and once you have an understanding of an engagement with most government officials on that, they know what kind of individual you are, because there
Yeah.
is no intimidation factor by I showed you a badge or I had flashing lights. It's like, yeah, well, who the fuck are you? Because as far as I'm concerned, the government policy that you're trying to implement is invalid under the Constitution of the United States. And we can go into the arguments later on. uh, this is me talking to that individual,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, who the fuck are you? I'm just trying to get to my destination. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. You got some stupid policy that's implemented by a stupid fucking politician that was paid by another stupid corporation to implement that policy, which eventually killed their competition in the long run. So,
Correct.
what the fuck are we talking about
So something I would say.
here? As far as that kind of interaction, I wish people would have the. Go ahead.
No, no, sorry, you had froze up on me. I thought you had stopped, but you were actually frozen on me. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, okay, it's weird. It must have froze.
Yeah, it froze for a
So
second.
right now, we've been infiltrated. Our streamers now have been pinched off to make sure they are recording.
Yeah,
These are the
yeah,
little
yeah,
glitches to say
yeah.
that yes, people should tell the those that are, yes, that's a human being. But don't ever let your label, title, or category create a hierarchy where you think you're more superior to another human
That's
being
right.
ever. It
That's
creates
right.
a false sense of security on both parties' parts, to tell you the truth. And you never know if you're dealing with a bad actor.
Yep.
Don't know. So the thing is that we need to create other systems that are sustainable, and don't rely on the fear factor instead of the secure factor. And the false sense of security is like welfare or food stamps or anything. It creates a dependency
Yep.
that gives you that kind of false sense of security, but you must meet these criteria.
Correct.
And that's what it is. It's just like a veteran going in, trying to apply for benefits. Well, the dates are this and this. Your date is just one day before that, so that doesn't really qualify you. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? One
Yep.
day, and this is how they can say they do things, but they make the criteria so extremely specific that people fall through the cracks every single day, and that's what makes the system broken.
Yeah, I'll say this: if we're going to create and I know there's a lot of specifically conservative and or libertarian voices out there calling for a dual economy, and I'm not against that, right? I'm not against that. But what I would say, here's the system that I would implement if I were King Czar, um, ruler of the planet: self-reliance, just like we've been talking about the entire time. Okay, learn how to grow your own food, learn how to barter on your own, learn how to fix your things. Here's the other thing too, and I'm a strong advocate for this because I'm personally somebody who has had to fight and still have to fight every day to not be ACAB. Okay, because I desperately want to view people as individuals first, regardless of the costume they decided to put on that day. But here is something that we should all be doing: Self-reliance also requires self-teaching. Okay, we've become dependent on the system of higher education, which actually doesn't really teach us anything. They
Academia can
just,
go fuck themselves.
yeah, it's horrible. You yourself can go and go read the laws in your area, in your land, in your communities, and know exactly how to interact with state actors and not get yourself in trouble. Okay, this is public information. It's out there and it's accessible. I'll say this just for pro tip of the day: engaged with cops, just don't talk. Don't answer any questions. Okay, you ask for their badge number, you ask for their superior, and a lot of times you'll actually chase these guys off. People don't know their rights. There's a great account. They're on TikTok. I follow them on TikTok, but I've been following them all over the place. And it's called the Cannabis Lawyers or something like that. But they literally tell you how to interact with police. Now, this is on a general national level. And they're lawyers, right? But the number one thing is don't answer questions. Anyway, look up the laws in your land and know how to interact with state actors when they come to your door or they pull you over, because you actually get yourself in a lot more trouble by just being ignorant. And you can self-teach. That's something that we all do. I know I do. That's why I hate that phrase when you see it all the time in memes and stuff on the internet. It drives me nuts. People are like, oh, everybody last week was an epidemiologist, and now everybody this week is a constitutional lawyer. Well, you know what? I've got access at the tip of my fingers to go and be an expert on it. So, yes, I'm going to go study and learn how to operate in that arena.
Correct.
This is by design. They want you. They've said it. They've said it. They said, do not do your own research. It is bad. They're telling you that stuff now. Those types of memes, everybody was this last week. Now they're this week. This is all just government psyop bullcrap so that you're not going to go read what you need to read so that you can be self-taught and self-reliant and anti-system.
Well, one of the biggest things I can tie into that is when I went and took my son in. He had a cold or whatever. He was, like 6 years old, getting ready to go into elementary school, and they do the whole background because we moved to another town, and it was, oh, well, what's the history, and my children are not vaccinated for anything ever since birth. So, they were like, well, that your son can't attend public school because he's not vaccinated. I literally laughed in this lady's face, and I had the folder because I knew I was bringing him to a new clinic that actually had the Wisconsin state statute that said it religious or personal conviction exempts me from this vaccination regimen. Now, what they don't tell you is that if you sign that piece of paper, Child Protective Services can come in because it's a known it's the general consensus of the physicians of Wisconsin that vaccinations are better. So the parent has gone against medical experts,
Yep. AMA.
which can put you in hot water because they can say, well, you're technically, according to the law, you're neglecting your child from not having them vaccinated, which is complete ridiculous. And we've seen religious versus medicine and all this other stuff in the news when they want to incite an idea that gets a predetermined outcome according to the design.
Right.
What I look at it as is that I laughed at her and I said, here you go. Here's the Wisconsin state statute that says that what you just told me is absolute bullshit. And
Nice.
I would like another person to care for my child, or even do this introduction, because you're not even the doctor, you're some CPA, or you're a nurse assistant, or not a certified personal accountant, you're what is it, CSAs or whatever,
CNA, certified
CNA.
nursing assistant.
So it's like, well, because you believe that and you wanted to put it on me, you think I'm some stupid uninformed individual. Well,
Right.
here you go. And then she like kind of shit her pants a little bit, and I was like, well, just as a little extra dig at her, I was like, well, it looks like you're busting out your scrubs a little bit, so I don't know about if you're making the personal choices that are for your personal health. Maybe you need to go see a mental health
Nice.
physician.
Exactly.
Because it's the insult first. So it's like you get poked first, and then you want to poke them harder.
Yeah.
because it's just, I don't have time for this bullshit anymore. Here's the
Right.
information, the legality of it, and I'm done with it. And I think that when people have $1,000 device in their hand that they're making payments on per month on their phone bill, and they have access to an infinite amount of information
Yep.
for whatever you would wish to learn,
Whatever you want. Yep.
get off the entertainment cycle, get on the skill set cycle, because
Mm-hmm.
it may feed you in the near future. I would say that.
100%. And don't rely just on that. I've been stockpiling books, paperback and hardback. And so this really would be the lesson of the day. Because I think I had said earlier that the Industrial Revolution and this society of this microwave society and gimme, 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 I want it now is a negative result of capitalism, of rich, prosperous capitalism. That's probably actually inaccurate because the system, a prosperous capitalist system didn't cause this. This was from neglect on our end as citizens not to stay informed. And again, I'm reference Mao's Cultural Revolution here. Did you see how quickly over the last 30, 40 years they demonize the elderly?
Mm-hmm.
They just make fun of them. All kids think old people are stupid now.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They don't know what
remarkably
they're
bad.
talking about.
That's
They come
remarkably
from
bad.
that predated. They're prehistoric. Nothing that they
Yep.
say is relevant anymore.
Yep.
And it's funny because those are the children that didn't have the elderly 35-year-old grandma going, you don't talk that way, or you don't act this way, or you don't do that. It's like constant. It's like Homer Simpson constantly eating the donut that never gets satisfied.
Correct.
And it this will come into what I think is a factor of, can you handle reality versus the metaverse? Because you're going to either live in the hard times of reality, or you're going to escape to the metaverse where reality doesn't exist because you can't handle what's going outside in your front
Yep.
lawn, or outside your window. So,
Yep.
um, I,
Yep.
I, I'm having a problem. My bladder is like screaming at me, saying that I gotta go relieve myself. Can
Yeah.
I take 2 minutes and I'll be right back?
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right, brother. I'll be right back.
Going to Quail Ridge every week now, Shepard. Fucking fix it, dude. Better?
I swear, if you go on the Joe Rogan Experience, you must be fitted with an adult diaper before you go on that podcast, because
I don't know
I
how
don't
they
know how
do
the
it with
fuck them guys
reality.
do it.
Yeah, I mean they must be. I hope they edit or something. I don't know how they do that, but yeah. So and going back, the way we demonized the elderly, and I don't say we, but you know what I can go learn from my grandma? I can go learn what different types of soil will be best to grow an orange tree. uh, when's the best time to put my, or what area of the yard is the best place to put my tomatoes. These people are going to find out real fast that all of the information and wisdom that helps propel you and prepare you for the future comes from those with lived experiences. And we lost a ton of lived experiences as a direct result of the Industrial Revolution because so many people decided I don't need to learn how to do these things. Somebody else is doing them for me,
Correct.
right? So much of that. So a handful of things that we should always be striving to teach our children is how to grow our own food, how to cook our own food. Me and my 5-year-old now he's an enormous human being. He's a massive dude. So and he's about to turn 6, but we roll every night. I train him on jujitsu, hand to hand combat. I also got him airsoft stuff, and I teach him how to shoot. Right? I teach him how to fight, teach him how to shoot, teach him how to give respect to people. We also teach him how to cook. We teach the girl how to cook. Now she's only 3, so soon enough she'll be learning how to shoot and how to fight with her hands and all that stuff, and how to grow your own food. All these things are absolutely necessary if we're going to get to the place that we want to be, and that's without interference, just living our lives and making the best of it without government interference. Because right now it ain't looking too good, and that government interference may wind up starving a lot of people to death because they simply don't know how to grow their own food.
Well, and I think that one of the things that people take away from being complacent with public education is teaching their children tangible skill sets that will
Correct.
help them in their adulthood and their survival, and how to have critical thinking skills, and how to be able to decipher a bad situation from a good situation, or something that might be dangerous, or something that might be playful. I think these things are all manipulated by our current state right now, and it is something that I trust me. My son's been to boxing class. My daughter's been to boxing class. They have gloves. They
Nice.
jump rope. They do all kinds of stuff to keep themselves fit. They are homeschooled. Lucky enough, my wife has a job that she works from home for, so she
That's
can still
awesome.
generate an income. The thing is that there are multiple choices that you can make to try and set up a situation that you can spend the most time with your children and pass on all your life experience to them, so that that generation doesn't have to go through the same bullshit that you went through, because
Yep.
obviously there's a failure throughout the timeline of generations of where there was something that was complacent, and then something that made you not complacent anymore. And being a vet, you understand. There's shit that you've gone through, there's shit that you've done, there's places that you did. There's just things that what is reality versus what is not reality. And I think the distinction between reality is being manipulated now, because with 5G, augmented reality, the implementation of always having LEDs in your household, LEDs can transmit data. And this is how automation works as far as autonomous vehicles. An autonomous vehicle sends a signal to another autonomous vehicle. This LED light is on for my right turn signal. That transmit to a prox sensor on the other vehicle. One is going to either match speed up, slow down, so that the transition of flow of
Wow.
traffic can happen. So,
That's
I
scary.
mean, this is how the shit actually works. And people are like, oh, well, that's conspiracy. Well, holy shit, Alex Jones has been right about I don't know how much shit. Every conspiracy that I can look at over the past like 70 years has been true,
Yeah.
including UFOs. So, and that's
That the
another thing that
government's
the
admitting
government's,
to now.
yes. So let's the language has become as perverse as it can be, as far as what is they them, what is a man, what is a woman, who can get pregnant, who
Yeah.
can't get pregnant, who is the supreme being versus who is not. It is just gotten so specific to where um, a person can't say one word or look at another individual without having to worry about some kind of something being implied from another individual, you know, because you said this one thing and or you moved in a mannerism that, you know, wasn't what that was in their liking. And it's like, I'm sorry, but this isn't a movie. This is
Right.
reality.
Right. Yeah, I'm desperately trying to break some of that stigma. And I actually don't get any heat for it, which I was super surprised. But once I started realizing, I was like, you know what? We really kind of need to kind of move back to jokes are okay, y'all. Right? Jokes are okay. Okay, because it's going to tamper down the tension. And so
Hmm.
I call myself and others retards and retarded all the time online, and that's a huge big no, man. Shut up! It's a joke. Okay, I use the word gay and homo all the time in the wrong, terribly wrong context. Terribly, right? No, it's funny. Okay, stop being so thin skinned and get over it. How about that? And but I don't really have a whole lot of, fight back. That's why I tweeted about it the other day. I said, just watch the newest Batman. That's the gayest movie I've ever. That's the gayest Batman I've ever seen. I was like, not like gay, but just gay. Haha, that was really gay. End of analysis. These little things don't seem like much, but in a day where you literally had, most people would be worried to say that online. We can't.
Correct.
We can't be that. If we're gonna be that, then there's no hope. We have to move back, which was actually progressing. We're really digressing right now. So we need to go back to what is real, actual progress. And that's individuals living together, sharing a community together, being okay with jokes. If you get offended, guess what? That's on you. Okay. You have the authority to dictate what you are and aren't offended by. I don't have that authority, but I'm going to be me. And I'm going to do what I feel like is going to be best for that moment. Maybe it's making a joke that might seem offensive to a lot of people. It's not meant to be offended. If you get offended, that's your choice.
Right. I mean, and this is one of the things that I was talking about Caroline Harlos with is like, where do we draw the line as far as what is our belief of an individual, just be by stigma and human interaction versus what is reality? Because if you can start a conversation with somebody that isn't based on any kind of label, title, or category other than human being, I guarantee you can find that there's a some kind of common ground that you can meet on that doesn't have a particular bias that attends to it. Like I wear the Thor's hammer as far as my
Right.
practicing as a Norse pagan. That doesn't mean that what you believe as a religious background is anything less than what I believe. You have your own structure. I have my structure. We could have a conversation about anything,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah.
because there's no bias there to put a barricade in front of us, that's one of the things that I like to get rid of is these, oh well, I'm a I'm a, I'm a I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a this, I'm a that first before who I really am. And I think a lot of people
Right.
are scared to show who they really are. I think a lot of
100%.
people are really scared to do that because they
Yep.
have to fit the image in which they've been sold of how to live. You know, you can
They've
have a
been,
guy that
yeah.
it's like con artist shit.
Well, they've been sold a lie of what success is. They've been going all the way, circling all the way back, circle back Saki. They've been lied to about what, and to themselves. They're lying to themselves as well because it's easier to do that than it is to critically think and look at it from a very, strong analytical perspective and break things down. It's easier just to say, okay, well, you tell me then, and that's where we're at. Is okay. Well, you just tell me. Okay, I'll wear the mask. Just tell me where. Okay, I'll take it. Just tell me what to do because I don't want to have to think about it. I want all of the obligatory duties of being responsible and taking ownership over the actions and consequences of my behavior. I'm going to outsource all that to you. And in control, you're going to give me absolute epping tyranny. It's amazing.
And that's exactly it. Everybody wants to be told what to do. Nobody wants the personal responsibility to handle the consequences of their actions because they've all been given a participation trophy just for being there.
Yep. No, winners
It's
and
not
losers
about
are
being
good,
number
man.
one anymore.
No, it's
It's
just
not about that.
but what and look, we used to say that, 20 years ago we said it's not about being number one, it's just about being able to play the game. You can't even say that now because now everybody's entitled to be able to play and win. This is garbage. It's a toxic culture that mindset is going to do what it does. And we're seeing this play out right now before they keep throwing that word equity out there. That's by design. It's not equality, it's equity. And that's how this started, right? It's everybody deserves the same outcome. So let's destroy meritocracy in the name of equity. And what's going to happen when you destroy meritocracy? Well, then nobody's going to put any value in merit.
Correct.
This isn't difficult, and people just, I don't understand how they don't see this. When they started chipping away at meritocracy, you're going to crash your economy, period. Again, it all
Well,
revolves around the economy.
we can go back to when contracts meant something, because contracts meant that is your merit, because now I have it in bold lettering that you are going to
Yep.
hold to your word. Before the contract that was written, it was a contract between handshakes. And then when you
Yep.
have this greed and this overwhelming human want to be the overlord instead of in compliance with everybody, that's where usually the problem always happened.
Yep. Well, and again, what you're talking about is what you alluded to earlier. I'm going to touch on that was incentivization. What are we incentivizing? Because whatever we're incentivizing, you can go look and see the direct results of that, because there's nothing new. Nothing. This isn't new. What we're doing right now isn't new. Now go look at the societies and cultures and communities that would incentivize some of the things we're incentivizing, and go look what the result of that was. Usually you're going to wind up somewhere around Nazi Germany, communist China, communist Venezuela, communist Puerto Rico, Cuba. That's where you're going to land. Communist Russia. That's what happens when you incentivize the things that we're currently incentivizing now. Just like the first question you asked, what do you think about people still staying at home as a direct result of the cold instead of going to work? Well, when you incentivize that, expect that result, and then don't get shocked when you have a supply chain crisis. I mean,
It's hard to keep things moving when there's nobody there to move it.
right. And you're incentivizing them not to move it on purpose. I think that's my conspiracy theory. I think it's all by design. I think it's intentional. They have to crash the U.S. economy. They have to crash the dollar, because how on earth are they gonna have a one world government if you have a bunch of different money floating around? You can't.
Well,
You have to
I
create
said it.
one currency.
I said this to Jack Casey. I said, no matter which way you look at it, they're still going to win, because either they're going to have mass depopulation, or they're going to get their one world government and still have the control. So
Yep.
they're not in it to lose it. They're not in it to lose. It's still a win-win, because if you do crash the global economy and you make goods, services, and resources scarce, then you create the violence issue between the people because of
Correct.
survival.
Yeah.
And then if you do get the one world government, then you have overall compliance under this, whatever rules you want to create. So no matter what, I look at it as for human beings, it's a lose-lose. Unless you can create the cooperation that we would like to see between human beings, to where you just say, this over here and this ideology is no longer valid. We're going to go over here and start our own thing, and have the skill sets to say that, if you want to come over here and fuck around and find out, you're going to fuck around and
Right.
find out. But we're trying to do this peacefully and say that, no, we're just going to go over here and do our own thing. And one of the things that is tripping me out right now in the Libertarian Party is talking about secession, and getting separating the states and all this other stuff. And I think that the only point that they make is when you talk about secession, you give the opportunity to rewrite the Constitution.
Yep. That's exactly
That's
right.
the thing that I think is the main point of staying as the Union is that if you give the opportunity to rewrite the Constitution in the current state of the populace right now, then I would say that you're no longer going to have to worry about long range weapons or anything like that. You better be ready for up close and personal. And
Yeah.
I hope you got your balls screwed on tight for what the results are. So I would say that we should stay away from that. We should stay more towards keeping the union going and having the cooperation between people so that there isn't any kind of bullshit that would create that ultimate civil war or civil unrest to where there is mass depopulation.
I don't I don't see any other way around it, honestly. Um, I'm actually I don't see any peaceful way for us to move forward without a national divorce, because COVID really split the country up into two camps: people that want everyone to be controlled by the government, and those who want to be left alone and make decisions for their own life. I mean, that really, really poked it. Now we got the opportunity through that process to show the conservative people who thought that that's what they were for prior.
Yeah.
Is like, hey, look, X, Y, and Z, you got this way wrong, right? And a lot of the classical liberals moved right into our camp, because that's what we are, classical liberals, right? And a lot of Democrats moved right into our camp. And then you had the progressive authoritarians in one camp, and then you have everybody else who's basically, I just want to do this on my own, in another camp. Those two can't share a government together. There's no peaceful resolution out of that outside of a national divorce. You're talking about having to try and educate a mass population of people who the last thing they want is to be educated, self-reliant, and let other people live their lives. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how you can share a government with those people.
Yeah, well, I think what's going to happen though is I think that through the experience of feeling those hunger pains, I think that's what's going to change the minds. And I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier
You did.
is that those hunger pains, when you're feeling hungry, it changes your survival instincts like that. And there's multiple different situations that can do that. Whether you're jumping out of an airplane and you don't have a parachute deploy, and you have to go to your backup, and that doesn't deploy, and then you have to do other things, or if you go deep sea diving, or whatever the situation is, there's interactions where the human psyche says that I need to survive. And this is something that David Goggins talks about bringing your mind to the next level of survival, to where you're not worried about pains or this or that. You're worried about still moving forward. And if you can keep moving forward through the ultimate, most desolate situations, and we've seen that in current times in other countries where people are desolate, they are skin and bones starving, that it is as fucked up as you could ever want to see a person. It exists. And I think that's why a lot of veterans that have been all over the world are like, hey, man, I remember when I signed up to say that people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They have the freedom of religion. They have the freedom to assemble. They have the freedom of free speech. They have the freedom to do this. They have the freedom to do that. These are inalienable rights. That's why I think a lot of veterans, when they raise their hands to the Constitution, and the most important statement that you always make is against all enemies,
Foreign
foreign
and domestic.
and domestic. It does
Yep.
not matter that situation. And when you know that you have a government that has hardcore SS Nazis that have medals named after them that they still award people with, and it's like, I may not be the one that wants to wear that award. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I remember talking to a Medal of Honor awardee. He was like, I was a dumb motherfucker that
Oh
actually
wow.
survived. So this people don't understand that you can go through some life changing shit that will change your mind about everything you ever thought life was ever about. I think that people are going to find out that shit in the near future, and I wish that the transition would be a little bit easier, but I think that they're going to understand that mass farming is not sustainable. It's actually eroding the soil. It's imbalancing the alkaline versus the pH levels. It's not sustainable. People need to get back to raising their own foods, having
Yep.
their own skill sets, and then being trading for commodities that are out of season, depending on where you live in the world. You know,
Yeah.
the
See this?
overabundance has made shit
Yeah.
very fucked up.
Absolutely. The issue I have with it is that you're fighting the propaganda machine, right? So we can't forget that as soon as those hunger pains are being felt, the first thing that those people are going to do, because they're going to be told to do it, is point and say, that's your fault. It's your fault we're in this mess.
And that's, I think, what we're trying to do is block that propaganda finger pointing,
Yeah,
because
that's what we have to do.
I think everybody needs to realize that it's looking in the mirror. Any choices that you make in life, you're responsible for them. You have to have
Yep.
self-reflection.
Self-governance requires extreme responsibility. Period. End of story. Now we can go over. We'll stay away from it, and we're about. I know we're running up to an hour and a half, and I'm going to go get some lunch. But this week really shows you how there's a lot of things that people take for granted, and I think something that they not only take for granted that they don't want is self-responsibility, because they don't want self-governance. Period. Because they're starting to realize that with self-governance comes extreme responsibility, and they don't want that responsibility.
And that may come with those third world countries where people understand to walk 5 miles to go get water. They
That's why.
understand the trench of staying
Yep.
out 130-degree heat, doing what they have to do to harvest whatever they can as far as camel milk or whatever. I mean, there's 10,000 scenarios where people still live off the land like they did
Yep.
thousands of years ago, and that has become something that was obliterated in the United States. And just remember, if you have written word, just like Cajun does, that's not going anywhere. Just like
Nope.
I said, your every resource now says go to the internet, go to the most recent publication online, so that you have the most current events. That's how it was sold. Well,
Mm-hmm.
if they change the line item in the legislature that says that the firearm is no longer defined as an explosion propelled device, well, I let a device go from a bottle rocket or a
Yep.
wrist rocket or a pneumatically charged weapon, which would be considered an airsoft weapon. But it's not an airsoft because it's pneumatically charged at 3,000
Right.
psi. But
Right.
it's a pneumatic. It's a propellant of air, not an explosion. But yet again, you can still be charged with discharging a firearm or being in possession of a firearm just because you have the capabilities of a 50 caliber round.
That's crazy.
And this is
Yep.
where
And they do that
calibers and all
intentionally.
these numbers shouldn't get
It ain't
it's
got nothing
nuts,
to do
dude.
with safety. It ain't got nothing
Correct.
to do with safety. This is about making people criminals so that they can take your rights away. Full stop.
Yep.
Explain
Yep.
it some other way. There's no other way. That type of language. And I was talking to my dad about this yesterday because he was like, I don't really get caught up in that. And he's a really smart guy. And I was talking to him about the court cases coming out this week. And I was trying to tell him how crucially important that Justice Thomas's decision on the New York City gun control law, how important that language is. Because when dealing with laws, the devil's in the details. It's in the language,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so incredibly important. So when you're looking at why they changed the definition, okay, the CDC changed the definition of what a vaccine was in the middle
Yep.
of all of us freaking out about COVID. They don't do these things, for no reason at all. Okay, they have to, because language is highly, highly, highly valuable.
Yes.
And we must understand and be able to speak the language if we want to have a fair shake and trying to interact with these people. You got to I use
Truth.
the internet every day.
Truth.
I'm on the internet all freaking day, every day, researching, doing stuff, but I still get hardback and paper copies because it may not have a digital infrastructure. Maybe it's only down 6 months, right? Maybe you lose it forever. Who knows? But don't be caught off guard. Get stuff. I got a full Prepper's Bible down there. I've got philosophy stuff from Jordan Peterson to Malcolm X writings to just about everything under the sun you can imagine. This one right here is Glenn Beck's The Great Reset, which I'm currently on right now. It's fantastic. But get paperback, get written word, do as much research as you possibly humanly can, learn and absorb. I love TikTok. I know a lot of people hate that. Oh, Chinese spyware app. Okay, yeah, whatever. But you know what? I get a lot of great farming tips on TikTok. And we have an entire backyard full of fruits and vegetables. And so get on YouTube. That's still one of the best results of this modern day technology that we do have. Even though we've become reliant on it, we can use that same technology to become reliant upon ourselves. Because there's a lot of people that put a lot of information out there that we could learn, where if the system crashed tomorrow, would be just fine.
Remember, that system was built by people that were told knowledge is power.
Yep.
And then it became entertainment sells advertising space, and you can
That's
become a
right.
millionaire. Just
That's right.
remember, it first was initiated as YouTube. You can produce as much content as you want, put as much information out there. It didn't matter if you were doing Damascus steel swords, or you
Right.
were learning how to rebuild an engine, or you were learning how HVAC systems work, or electrical, or whatever. It was about expanding your skill sets versus entertainment. Then the entertainment factor came in, and then it was like, oh, and I believe this began with Jackass. How much of an idiot can I be to get paid? And then we've been lost on this evolution ever since of entertainment versus skill. Entertainment
Yep.
versus skill.
Yep.
Entertainment's easy. I don't have to do a lot of personal work. I don't have to burn a lot of calories. But yet again, um, this is where people get in their mind. Well, I watched 10 million boxing rounds. I could be a boxer and go in and try and spar and get blasted out in the first round by somebody that has some real skill. Reality versus fantasy.
Yeah.
You're never going to have reality without actually going through experiences that dictate your reality. And it's just like this new. Tell me if you heard this trend. The cheating boyfriend because the woman dreamt it. Have you heard of this new trend?
I mean,
Yeah, you were
is it just
cheating on
talking?
me in my dream. So
Right.
who you talking to? What you doing?
That's a real thing. I mean, look, I know people get really upset when they dream about their partners cheating on them. Rightfully so, to a degree, right? But at the end of the day, it's just a dream.
See if you. I don't have a TikTok account. See if that actually exists because I've seen some videos on it on YouTube about TikTok reality or some shit, and their women are complaining to men about, oh, you were cheating on me in the dream, so now I got to go through your phone. If you have insecurity, this is the problem. When you have knowledge and skill sets, you have security. When you have experience, you learn through failure. You have wisdom. You have security through wisdom. And throughout life, that is what you're getting. As soon as you experience, you learn something, you move forward. Not one of us learned to walk in a day. Not one of us
Right.
learned how to crawl in a day. Not one of us learned how to speak in a day or learn 10 languages like some people have. And people are wired differently. We have specific purposes. Learn from the people out there that give you what their purpose was. And
Right.
my purpose was to be a diesel mechanic. I've have mastered, I think, most of the disciplines. There's a couple things that I still don't understand, but I
Right.
can sit and talk to you about how refrigeration systems work on trains. I
Right.
can sit and talk to you about how they do it in
Absolutely.
ammonia systems, in big refrigeration storage units that are buildings. I can go on for days about electrical. I can go on for days
Right.
about engines and fuel systems, and once you understand how systems work, you can be a functioning human being in pretty any system. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's feudalism, capitalism, a monarchy. I don't give a shit what it is. You'll once you understand how shit works, you'll be able to function in it. And if you can understand that it's a cooperation that between human beings, whether it be forceful or non-forceful, it's still an interaction that everybody complies with so that shit can keep moving forward. And I think that we need to stop trying to butt heads with everybody and
Yeah.
get out there and just say, hey man, what do you need? because if I need something from you and you need something from me, we can have a human interaction that's nonviolent, and we can be cool, we can be smooth. It's just a mutual benefit. But
Yep.
let's never forget, people do get greedy when it comes to money and other things and what they've been sold as what is important. Because if you think a fast car is important, I will tell you right now, they're more work than you want to fuck with. If you think a big house is important, they're more work than you want to fuck with. That's why you hire help. Uh,
Right.
these are things that are being sold to us that I think is actually modern bullshit. But um, let the people know where
Yeah.
they can reach you on Twitter. I think I got you there
Yep.
at the Cajun Libert one, and then
Yeah.
this is your actual unique YouTube address at the bottom.
Oh
That
wow,
that
thank you. I didn't
code
know that.
and it doesn't matter if it's on the YouTube app or if it's on Safari or Google.
Oh wow,
That's
that's
your
awesome.
individual number, bruh.
Appreciate that. That's really cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. I always tell people if they want to find me, they can just Google me. I'm the only Cajun libertarian on the planet. And if somebody else has tried to do something since then, it ain't gonna matter. If you Google me, I'm literally one of the you just type in the word the Cajun and I'm one of the first ones to pop up just because I have a large following online and I put out a lot of content. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter. That's definitely my Twitter handle. I did have the Cajun Libertarian, but I wound up getting locked out of the account. Couldn't remember how to get back in, so I created a new one, and I had to go with this nonsense. But everything else is the Cajun Libertarian. I mean, like on TikTok, there may be some underscores. I don't post too much on TikTok. That's a learning decompression app for me. But Twitter is where I've really been hammering down here lately. Facebook hates me, but I got several pages on Facebook. You can go check those out. Those are mostly just for fun memes and stuff like that. But Twitter's the big engagement app. I got the YouTube channel, which you put on the bottom there. That's really cool. Again, if you just get on YouTube, the Cajun Libertarian, I'm the only one, or I'll be the number one that pops up. So, and feel free to reach out if y'all want me on the show or you just need some advice or whatever. You can message the page or hit me up on Twitter or anything you need.
And I thank you very much, sir, because I've been trying to get you on this show ever since I
Oh
started.
man, I'm
And
so
I love you
sorry.
for coming on. I
Yeah,
think that
anytime.
we've had a great conversation. I
Oh
love to
yeah,
have many more, and
yeah.
maybe we can do an independent collaboration. The lunatic and the Cajun. I don't know, the Cajun lunatic. I don't know.
The Cajun Libertarian.
Um, the
And
thing
then,
is that I'm the lunatic libertarian. He's over there. Let's see if I can get my finger point right
yeah, you
because I
got it.
still don't understand
Yeah,
the
it's
camera.
always
He's over there.
near.
He's the Cajun libertarian. Just remember, stay free, people, and stay
Amen.
skilled and stay humble
Yes, indeed.
and understand that everybody's out here trying to survive. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I wish to do
Thank
very
you for
many
having
more
me.
with you. And be safe, be free, and don't let the government get in your way. I'm
That's
the
right. Thank
lunatic
you, my friend.
libertarian, Justin Lomness. That is the Cajun libertarian. I still can't get my fingers right, so I'm gonna do both. Yep, there.
Oh, good. That
Yep, yep,
works.
Brains tweaking. Thank you very much, sir. And we
Thank you.
are out. Peace. Stay free.